They told you to marry for love. They said love is enough. They said if your heart races, if your hands shake, if you can't imagine a single sunrise without them, then you've found it. The one. No one tells you what happens when the racing stops, when the shaking becomes anxiety, when the sunrise feels heavier than the night before. No one tells you that love, the kind that feels like fire, is designed to burn fast, and when it burns out, you're still legally bound to the ashes. Somewhere tonight, a man is staring at the ceiling beside a woman he once swore he would die for. He is not angry. He is not even sad. He is simply tired. Somewhere tonight, a woman is scrolling through old photos of a wedding day where she looked certain. She remembers the music, the vows, the way everyone said, "You two are perfect." And now she feels alone, in a house full of shared furniture. They didn't fail because they didn't love each other. They failed because love was the only thing they had. That's the part no one warns you about. Love is an emotion. Marriage is an infrastructure. And when you build a house on a feeling, you shouldn't be surprised when it shifts. You think this one that happened to you. You think your love is different, stronger, pure. Everyone thinks that. Every couple standing under white lights and flower arches believes they are immune to statistics, immune to psychology, immune to time. But time is undefeated, and chemistry is temporary. At 27, love feels like oxygen. At 37, it feels like negotiation. At 47, it feels like memory. What if the very thing you're chasing is the thing that will quietly undo you? What if the butterflies are not a sign of destiny, but a warning of instability? What if the reason your heart feels so alive is because it senses danger? There's a reason divorce rates don't peak during hate. They peak during indifference. There's a reason people say, "We just grew apart." They didn't grow apart. They built nothing that could hold growth. Love chooses. Marriage endures. And endurance requires something far less romantic. Something colder. Something quieter. Something most people ignore because it doesn't make their pulse race. Tonight, we're going to talk about that thing. The thing no one puts in vows. The thing that doesn't photograph well. The thing that, if missing, turns a dream into a slow, silent collapse. Because one day, you will wake up next to the person you married, and you will ask yourself one terrifying question. Did I marry the right reason, or just the right feeling? And by the time you know the answer, it might already be too late. In the beginning, everything feels stable. Not because it is, but because you believe it is. Love creates a chemical shield around your judgment. Dopamine, oxytocin, adrenaline, a biological cocktail that convinces you this person is not just good, but necessary. You don't just want them. You feel safer with them, and that feeling of safety becomes the foundation. But here sits the problem. A feeling is not a foundation. In the early months, even red flags look like personality. Jealousy feels like passion. Control feels like protection. Intensity feels like depth. You say things like, "They suck just like that. They care too much. They love hard," and you smile when you say it. Because in that stage, everything feels romantic. You mistake attachment for compatibility. You mistake chemistry for alignment. You mistake urgency for destiny. It all feels solid, like you've finally found ground after drifting for years. History is filled with civilizations that believed they were secure right before collapse. Empires that thought their walls were strong enough. Markets that thought they would never crash. Leaders who thought they were untouchable. Overconfidence doesn't shout. It whispers. It'll be fine. And that whisper is dangerous. When you marry for love alone, you are betting your future on emotion remaining constant. But emotion is fluid. It rises. It fades. It mutates. No one stands at the altar thinking, "In 10 years we will struggle to communicate." No one says, I promise to stay even when respect erodes. Because at the beginning, respect feels automatic. Effort feels effortless. Sacrifice feels noble. You don't ask the uncomfortable questions. How do we handle conflict? What happens when attraction fluctuates? What are our values when money gets tight? How do we fight? How do we forgive? How do we grow without resenting each other? You don't ask, because love feels like the answer to everything, and society reinforces it. Movies glorify the chase, songs celebrate obsession, stories end at the wedding. Rarely do they show the Tuesday night silence. 5 years later, the slow drift, the exhaustion of pretending everything is still magical. You begin to rely on the feeling. Instead of building the structure, you assume you will figure it out. But figuring it out requires tools, communication, emotional discipline, shared vision, aligned values. These aren't set romantic. They are architectural. And architecture isn't exciting during construction. It's exciting when the storm comes. In the illusion of safety, couples confuse harmony with health. If we don't fight, we stunt good. But sometimes you don't fight because one of you avoids conflict. Sometimes you don't fight because one of you suppresses needs. Sometimes peace is not peace, it's silence, and silence, over time, becomes distance. Distance becomes misunderstanding. Misunderstanding becomes resentment. But it doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, quietly, almost politely. You still go to dinners. You still post smiling photos. You still say, I love you before bed. But something subtle shifts. The conversations lose depth. The laughter becomes routine. The spark feels managed. You tell yourself, it's just normal. Because everyone says marriage is hard. And it is. But there's a difference between hard work and slow erosion. The illusion of safety is powerful. You bought a house together. You combined finances. You introduced families. You signed papers. It feels permanent. And permanence feels secure. But paper doesn't create alignment. Proximity doesn't create compatibility. Love doesn't guarantee respect. The first subtle warning sign is never dramatic. It's not betrayal. It's not screaming. It's not slammed doors. It's a thought. A quiet, private thought. Is this it? You dismiss it. Everyone has doubts. You move on. But that thought doesn't disappear. It waits. And the more you rely on love to carry everything, the heavier everything becomes. Because love is powerful. But love alone was never meant to hold a lifetime. And somewhere, beneath the comfort and the routines and the shared passwords, the first crack has already formed. You just don't see it yet. And that's what makes it dangerous. It starts small, almost imperceptible. A late reply to a message, a forgotten promise, a glance that lingers too long on something else. At first, you rationalize it. Busy day. Stress at work. Nothing personal. You tell yourself, these are normal. Everyone slips sometimes. No one is perfect. But perfection isn't the problem. It's consistency. The first cracks aren't loud. They whisper in subtleties. A tone that bites when it shouldn't state. A joke that stings. A small resentment, tucked behind a smile. And your heart, conditioned to love, wants to forgive. It wants to protect the illusion. It wants to believe that your love is strong enough. History repeats itself here, quietly. Think of the stock market before a crash. Think of a house built on sand. Think of civilizations that ignored tremors before earthquakes. Small warnings dismissed, rationalized, forgotten. You keep building your life in the hope that the foundation is stronger than it feels. You keep believing that love is sufficient. And that belief is your first mistake. Sometimes it's not betrayal that breaks a marriage. Sometimes it's Sid's absence, a lack of attention, a failure to notice. You stop sharing your fears. You stop asking questions. You stop listening. The conversations that used to fill rooms with laughter now become transactional. How was your day? Fine. The spark dims. The connection wanes. But you reassure yourself. That's just a phase. That'll pass. Friends notice the subtle shifts before you do. Family senses the tension, yet you refuse to admit it. Denial feels safer. And then the first fight erupts. It's insignificant at first. A misplaced word, a forgotten errand, something trivial, but it leaves a residue, a tiny fissure. And when the conversation ends, you both lie awake wondering, was that all? Because cracks grow. They spread beneath the surface. They turn invisible in daylight. They sphere hidden in the routines of normalcy. And the worst part, you still love each other. You still believe in the story you told yourselves. You still hold hands at the movies. You still laugh at old memories. But love, on its own, cannot fix what you refuse to see. Soon these small fissures begin to dictate the rhythm of your lives. You navigate around them, tiptoe. Avoidance becomes habit, and the moment you realize the cracks aren't stepped going away, that sits when the unease truly begins. Because now, your home, your life, is not what it seemed. And the question that you has been avoiding quietly starts to scream. Am I building my future, or merely surviving my present? The first cracks are never dramatic, but they are inevitable. And once you notice them, there's no going back to ignorance. The truth is beginning to edge its way in. And when it finally shows its face, you'll wish you had seen it sooner. The cracks are no longer small. They widen. They deepen. They become visible to everyone but you. Arguments that once ended in apologies now linger. Small disagreements become battles over principle. Every word carries weight. Every silence carries meaning. You look at the person you married and wonder, when did this become a stranger? Denial is seductive. It whispers, it is just stress. It's just a phase. Used to imagining things, and society reinforces it. Books tell you love conquers all. Friends tell you compromise is key. Therapists tell you to communicate. And you do. You communicate. You try. But it doesn't fix the weight of the unseen erosion. You start to notice patterns. The late nights, the curt responses. The way your spouse's gaze avoids yours, you rationalize again. People change. Have both had rough days. That's not permanent. But deep down, you feel it. The foundation isn't just cracked. It's unstable. And yet, you continue. Because leaving feels too hard. Because divorce is terrifying. Because you tell yourself you still love them. History has shown this before. Empires crumble under denial. Families fracture under pride. Lives unravel under the weight of what was ignored. Your days become a careful choreography, a dance of avoidance and diplomacy. You laugh when you need to, nod when you shouldn't, apologize when you feel wronged. The emotional toll is invisible, but it accumulates, slowly, relentlessly. And then you start noticing the small betrayals, not infidelity, not dramatic acts, but the erosion of trust, broken promises, forgotten commitments, a lack of follow-through that used to be unthinkable. You ignore it. You rationalize it. You pretend it's started happening, because acknowledging it would mean confronting the truth. Love alone cannot sustain a lifetime. And then the first heavy realization hits. You are no longer just two people in love. You are two people trapped in a pattern, a cycle of unmet needs and unspoken grievances. You are no longer partners in a shared vision. You are cohabitants in a deteriorating structure. The irony is cruel. Everything looked perfect from the outside. The smiles, the pictures, the holidays, the public declarations of love. But inside, it is collapsing. And the first heavy realization is this: you cannot save it with love alone. And when the truth finally pierces the veil of denial, you are left with a chilling question. Did I marry a person? Or did I marry an illusion? Because illusions can hold for years, but eventually they break. And when they break, there's no comfort in the love you thought you had. The consequences are coming, and there is no way to stop them now. There comes a moment in every marriage, a single point, when everything could still have been salvaged. It's quiet, almost invisible. No fanfare, no dramatic showdown, just a choice. A choice to see clearly, to communicate honestly, to rebuild. But most people don't take it. They hesitate. They rationalize. They hope. Hope feels safe. But hope is not action. You might remember it as a conversation that went wrong, a fight you ignored, a warning you brushed off, a look in their eyes that said, "Something is wrong." And your response was, used to imagining it. This is the fatal choice. Because marriage is not love alone. It is shared responsibility, shared vision, shared labor. And when one partner refuses to confront reality, the other cannot carry the weight alone. Many couples pass this point without realizing it. They still dine together. They still laugh at old jokes. They still hold hands in public. But the undercurrent has shifted. The trust is fragile. The respect is fading. The warmth is transactional. And then comes the moment of truth. Subtle, almost mundane. A decision made in avoidance rather than clarity. A compromise chosen to keep the peace rather than build a future. A silent agreement to ignore the cracks rather than repair them. That is the point of no return. Once this choice is made, every future decision is shadowed by it. Every word, every action, every expectation carries the weight of what was ignored. Some couples wake up and see it. Too late. They look at each other and realize, we could have fixed this. We could have built something lasting. But we didn't sit. Regret is not immediate. It creeps in like fog, and when it settles, it is suffocating. Because at the point of no return, the story you believed in dies slowly, and you're left with the hollow echo of what might have been. The question is no longer, can we fix this? The question becomes, do we even recognize each other anymore? And when that question rises, you finally understand the consequences are now inevitable, and nothing, not love, not hope, not promises, can stop them. The collapse is never loud, not at first. It begins in small, almost imperceptible ways. The laughter fades. The dinners become silent. The touch of a hand no longer comforts. It only reminds you of what is missing. You watch each other across the room. Strangers under the same roof. The arguments are no longer about issues. They are about survival. About who will yield. Who will break first. The subtle tensions become walls. Invisible, yet impenetrable. Every conversation is a minefield, and still you hold on to the smallest gestures of the past. A smile, a memory, a song, because letting go feels unbearable. But the collapse doesn't wait for permission. It moves through the home like a slow storm, quiet at first, then relentless. The house feels colder. Even the familiar smells carry weight. Every object reminds you of agreements unkept, promises broken. Friends notice your absence from joy. Family senses your withdrawal. But no one can intervene. No one can restore what was silently eroded over years. And inside you feel it, a creeping emptiness, a quiet grief for what could have been, a hollow ache that love alone cannot fill. Sometimes the collapse is marked by shouting, sometimes by tears, sometimes by silence, but always, always, it leaves behind a landscape of regret. By now you realize the truth. The life you built was never strong enough to endure on emotion alone. The walls were not reinforced. The foundation was not laid, and time, merciless, impartial, has exposed it. The house is still standing. The marriage is still intact, but inside, Inside, it has already fallen apart. And when the collapse is complete, the realization hits, no one will rebuild it for you. No one will restore the love you once felt. No one can replace the years lost to illusions. And in the emptiness of that quiet aftermath, you begin to understand the real cost of marrying for love alone. The consequences are not dramatic. They are silent. They are permanent. And the question remains, do you see it in time? Or will you only recognize it when it's already too late? After the collapse, there is a silence that cannot be filled. Not the silence of peace, not the silence of calm, but the silence of absence. The house is the same. The furniture hasn't changed. The walls are still painted the same color, but it feels empty because the people inside are not the same. You sit across from the person you once loved and realize you know less about them than you did on day one. All the time spent together, all the vows spoken, all the memories made, they could not bridge the distance that grew quietly, imperceptibly between you. And you see yourself too, the person who ignored warning signs, the person who prioritized feeling over structure, the person who built on sand, not stone. You replay every choice, every compromise made for convenience, every argument avoided, every whisper of doubt dismissed. You see where things could have been different, where the first cracks could have been addressed, where honesty could have saved you. But hindsight is cruel. It doesn't come in time to prevent heartbreak. It arrives only to weigh you down. You understand now that love was never the problem. Love alone was never meant to fail you. It was the reliance on love as the only pillar, the refusal to build anything else alongside it. You reflect on the small moments that should have been foundations, the shared goals, the alignment of values, the way conflict was handled, the habits that sustained respect and trust, all of it ignored. And now, all that remains is reflection. You sit quietly, feeling the echo of choices long made. Some regret is sharp, some grief is heavy, some emptiness just waits. And in the quiet, you recognize the final truth. Marriage is not an act of passion. It is a structure, a lifetime of decisions, discipline, and shared responsibility. And when you marry for love alone, the aftermath is inevitable. Because love, however intense, cannot survive on feeling alone. And as you sit there, staring at the remnants of what once felt unbreakable, you know that the hardest lesson is this: some lessons only arrive after everything else has fallen. And the question lingers in the air: will you see it before it sups too late? Look closely. Look at the person you love. Look at the life you're building. Look at the choices you are making right now. You may think you have time. You may think that love is enough. You may believe that feelings will carry you through storms, silence, and years of routine. But love alone is not enough. Marriage is an architecture of values, trust, and shared vision. It is discipline over desire, commitment over chemistry, alignment over attraction. If you marry for passion, you may feel alive. For a season, if you marry for emotion, you may feel complete. For a moment, but if you marry for the wrong reasons, you will slowly, silently, live a lifetime of regret. Do not wait until the cracks are visible. Do not wait until the silences grow unbearable. Do not wait until indifference replaces intimacy. Look beyond the butterflies. Look beyond the spark. Look at the person's character, their values, their habits, their respect. Because when you marry for the right reason, not love, but alignment, integrity, and shared vision, you build something that endures. When you marry for anything less, the collapse is inevitable. So before it sits too late, ask yourself the question that matters most. Am I marrying the person or just the feeling? Because one day you will wake up and realize that the answer has already chosen your future. And at that moment, it will be too late.